Hello guys, welcome to another vid. This is the Vlogyssey, which is just a random name that I gave to an attempt to try and make myself make more regular videos. So here is one. Yeah, I haven't been doing a hell of a lot of gaming though the last week, really. Been working a bit and then spending time with the missus. Although I have gone back to Breath of the Wild. I criminally allowed myself to get distracted from the new Zelda game by PSVR. Yeah, my impatience for virtual reality got the better of me and it caused me to stop playing Breath of the Wild. Imagine that! But I've gone back to it and I've made some good progress. I've now got two of the Divine Beasts and done some more stuff on it. And oh, it's such a fun game. Yeah, the open kind of way that it approaches the gameplay, the fact that it doesn't hold your hand much at all, is really good because you really feel like you're making the adventure for yourself. You know, finding stuff out and just exploring and coming across important stuff or new threads to the story or new things to do, whatever. You really feel like you're discovering the game, and that's really good. The cat's just seen a dog walk past. How dare he walk past? Don't worry, Nitro, it's okay. It's still your patch. But yeah, so back on Zelda. That's the only game I've been playing on Wii U for the last several months, although there's still quite a lot on my shelf that I haven't even got to yet. So yeah, but with the PSVR, mainly playing Farpoint. That game is fantastic. It is another level. Just playing a first-person shooter in VR, like you're actually in a first-person shooter with a gun that feels exactly how it looks in the game. I don't know how best to describe it. It's so realistic, and I forgot to say this in the previous video. It's so convincing. Realistic's the wrong word to use. It's so convincing, that sense of presence, that it makes me want to walk on the spot to help mimic the movement of the character in the game. That's how immersive it is. I find myself walking on the spot so that, you know, you actually do kind of feel closer to what's happening with your character. Yeah. And I still haven't done multiplayer on it yet. Apparently that experience of being in the game world with another person just raises it up to another level. So I'm looking forward to that, but I'm still playing through the story first. Yeah. What else have I been playing on PSVR? Well, some people have come round and I've shown off some of the more simple games. Yeah, Job Simulator was popular, and some of the shooting gallery games. There's a lot of those on VR. They work very well on VR with the Move controllers and now with the aim controller as well. So yeah, I'm happy with it. I am. You know, there's definitely a part of me that thinks, oh, I should have waited just a little bit. I mean, come on, I did have a lot of games on the to-do list. So I really could have waited a little bit, and I'm very much expecting a price drop. If not at E3 this weekend, then certainly before Christmas, maybe October time or something, there's going to be a major price drop for PSVR, and hopefully some cool new games announced for it. So it's getting even more worth it as a prospect if you want to check it out. We'll see. But yeah, that's the only game I've been doing recently. I did want to have a little word about the election because it's really fucking important and everyone's talking about it now. It's in the news, of course, and an election cycle is one of the only times where everybody is talking about this politics stuff, and not just those like me who follow it every day anyway. Yeah, and I kind of put a video out there a while back saying, does anybody want to talk about it? What's your reasons for considering Tory? And it didn't go down too well. There wasn't that many Tory responders, which is a shame because, you know, I'd like to hear genuinely why people think they should vote for the Conservatives, given the huge weight of evidence against that being a good idea. You know, I really do fear that people's opinions are heavily influenced by a media that has proven to be very biased for the Tories. But even a lot of the mainstream media has recently had to criticise the Tories because their malfeasance has been so egregious as to not be, you know, you can't deny it. You can't deny the stuff that they've been criticised for recently, unless you work for the Daily Mail or the Sun, of course, which have just turned the dial up to 11 recently. But yeah, I mean, just with Manchester and London, you know, this can be seen to be a consequence of a reduction in funding to police, and the fact that the police and the Met Office and MI5 knew about these blokes and didn't do fuck all about them. They were on watch lists. They were allowed to travel to Libya and come back again. They were, you know, so this is a failing. This is a failing of the Tory government. And this just one example of many others that I could make, but I'm not going to because I don't want to bore you too much. But that's one example of how ridiculous it is to point at Jeremy Corbyn and say it's his fault, or he's to blame, or it'll get worse under him, or he's who he should be worried about. That guy's not been anywhere near power. You know, with his own manifesto, with his own policies, with the way he's doing things, he's never been anywhere near power. So to blame him or to point the finger at him doesn't make any sense. If you're sat on the... if you're in government and you're pointing at somebody else and saying it's their fault, you have to admit the fact that, hang on a minute, you're the ones who've been in charge whilst all these things have been happening. You're the ones who have presided over cuts to public services. You're the ones who've made decisions that have allowed these circumstances to present themselves. And again, I'm not just talking about Manchester, I'm talking about all the things that you're pissed off about. Every single thing that you're pissed off about that has been happening within society or the politics of the last 7 years or so are the fault of the Tories. And if you want to go further back and try and blame it on New Labour, which is ridiculous, of course, but if you wanted to try and do that, I would argue that New Labour is not up for election in this general election. Tony Blair is not a candidate. Jeremy Corbyn couldn't be further away from Tony Blair's agenda and has spoken out against him on many times and voted against him many times for stuff he didn't agree with. So let's leave that out of it. Let's talk about the recent history, the last 7 years, which have created the circumstances in so many different areas of debate that you are pissed off about. If you're pissed off about immigration, it's the Tories that have been in power whilst immigration has stayed at the level it is. They made promises to reduce it to the tens of thousands. They didn't. It stayed around 250,000 per annum. Now, whether or not it's even logical or possible to talk about reducing immigration massively is another story. But if you're pissed off about it, the conditions that have presided over those circumstances are down to the Tory government. So how can you then point the finger at someone who's not in power and say, worry about them? It doesn't make any sense. And yeah, that's a general point that I'd apply to a lot of different things. So pick your favourite subject that you're pissed off about. Any one of them, you know. And these weird smears against Corbyn, they're dredging up things from 30 years ago that are completely irrelevant, trying to demonise him for being part of a successful successful peace process in Northern Ireland, talking to the same people that David Cameron, Boris Johnson, Theresa May and Margaret Thatcher all spoke to as well. Whilst at the same time, the Tory press won't want you to focus on the fact that Theresa May and Boris Johnson have just done arms deals with Saudi Arabia, who literally fund and arm ISIS. The hypocrisy would be hilarious if it wasn't so serious. So yeah, obviously I'm voting Labour. I didn't last time, like I've said before. I voted Green in the last election because I didn't think Labour were giving a genuine alternative. But this time I do. I think you have to vote based on the individuals that are up for election. And you have to do your own research as well, because you can't go, if you're reading the Daily Mail or the Sun for your news, you are not going to get an objective picture of things. So I suggest, yeah, like I've said before, look at their voting record. And I'll link it down below. If you look at their voting record and see what policies they have put their name to or what things they have opposed, and see if those decisions fall in line with how you would have voted if you were an MP, I think that is a crucial point of how you can assess somebody's credentials. But also, look at the manifestos. Again, try not to look at the manifestos through the lens of the media. Do a bit more digging and just see that, of course, with Tories have so many U-turns on these policies that they've announced and no costing either. Imagine if Labour had come out with an uncosted manifesto. Imagine if Labour had done U-turns on flagship policies. You wouldn't hear the end of it, because those are big deals. And like I said, because it's been so egregious, even the Tory biased press hasn't been able to completely avoid criticism of the Tories in this election cycle. But we all agree that something needs to change. We all agree that there's big problems out there. Everybody's got their own little bugbear of things that they want changing. And how anyone could think that those things would change if you choose to re-elect the same people who have presided over the conditions that allowed for those things that pissed you off in the first place, I don't know. Anyway, that's the last I'm going to say on it. It's a shame that more people don't like talking about this stuff. It's really important. So, alright, next week we can all go back to talking about trivial shit. And it'll be fun. I like trivial shit. But every once in a while, you've got to stick your neck out and say, hang on a minute, we can do something here pretty fucking significant. Come on, guys. Anyway, yeah, vote Labour. That's my plea. My slightly curtailed plea. I could go on for hours. You know I could. I won't. That's it. What do you reckon, Nigel? Who are you going to vote for? Who are you going to vote for? Tell him. He's apolitical. Anyway, yeah. He's getting fat. He's officially a fat cat. I took him to the vet. She told me he's overweight. So no more dreamies, no more treats for you. Although Mrs. Shemuzo is a little bit weaker. She's been giving treats a little bit, I think, but yeah. That's it. Alright, guys. I can't believe you stayed here for the entire video. Oh, he's off now. Alright, that's it then. Alright, guys. Bye-bye.